right. Good morning, everybody. Dave Savage, CEO of Mortgage Coach. And yes, I start my calls with a clap. Someone actually gave me a dig on that recently. That's just, I think where I got that from is back in the day, I went through a Tony Robbins event and I walked on fire. And he's like, you got to have a power move. You got to have something that pumps you up, and I just, now it's programmed. So those of you who notice, that's my power move to get fired up. Today, I am interviewing Jason Abell. This is the second interview I've had with Jason. Feels like I've known you forever, though. I mean, Jason, it's great to connect. I saw you at the MBA event. I think we did an interview, about 3 weeks ago on the Iceberg?
Yeah, man, that was a fun time. I told you at that time I was just like happy to be here, but now I can actually say I'm back for a second term, and that feels good. To be invited back is a big deal. So I appreciate that, man. Good to be with you.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to be regular, because one thing I know for sure, there is a lot of change ahead. Things are not going to get less complex. There's not going to be less change in the mortgage space. It's only going to accelerate. And I'm going to go through a few slides in a minute to kick it off. But, Jason, what do you think, when people come to you and they hire you as a coach, how many different things that they want to change about their business? Is it usually one thing? Is it usually 10? What is the average number of things like, I want to hire you and I need to help and I need to make change?
Yeah, it's such a great question. We used to do a workshop called Thriving Through Change. In fact, I think even some of the stuff that we're talking about today is going to be thriving through change. And change is typically, it can be a positive thing, and sometimes it can be a negative thing. Sometimes the word change puts people in what we call a threat state, like, I need to change. And we typically use words like improve or grow, and that puts people in more of a towards state, because what's one of the sayings, if one thing is constant, it's change, and we know that. So people do come to us because there is a place that they want to transform or they want to grow. I don't know that there's a specific number of things that people want to change, but even if they come to us and they say, okay, I want to change 20 things, we're going to really sit down for a conversation first, and we're going to go, let's break that down. Let's keep it real simple, because one thing I've noticed, Dave, is if we try to change 20 things at once, we're going to go a mile wide and an inch deep, and we probably won't do really good at any of that. And so we're going to focus in on one or two things to begin with and then move on from there. So how's that for a political non-answer?
Yeah, no, that was an answer. I mean, at the end of the day, let's get down to what matters most. That's so right. A couple things before I hand it off to you and you go through some strategic thoughts. I want to remind folks, if you're on this call, this is a mastermind. So if you have questions, you can ask them in Zoom, you can ask them in Facebook Live, and then hopefully you are an engaged and active member in the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind. This is the one place where spending time on Facebook makes you money. By the way, let me take that back, because I do believe if you use Facebook strategically, use it right to build personal brand, it makes you money. But in terms of just, kind of scanning and reviewing things, this is a money-making Facebook activity. Also want to remind folks that this morning I released a new article called, Are You Playing Mortgage Checkers or Are You Playing Mortgage Chess? It's a quick read. You guys know me. I post some bombs. The playbooks can be, for me, they're like a 20-minute read. For normal human beings, they're like a 9-minute read. But this is a pretty brief, pretty quick read on, what is mortgage checkers? What is mortgage chess? Check it out. Also, I'm going to put a link down below in the recording to my interview with Jason on the iceberg model of results. Highly recommend you check that out. So what I want to do first is I want to go through some slides, and I've shared these in different contexts in different ways, but I really am fine-tuning this message because I think it really sets up what Jason's going to share. And the title of this keynote right now, I want to call The Digital Shift. And I just want everybody to get really clear that there has been an absolute shift in our business. And the net result of that is this quote right here. technology isn't going to replace loan officers. Loan officers who master it will. So that is a result of the shift. But there's this shift to where there's this absolute race for the best customer experience. So I don't think anybody would deny that. The thing that's so exciting and also so concerning is that part of that shift is just consumer behavior. It wasn't so long ago that the realtor was just the king of the mountain. They owned every relationship that surrounded the home buyer. And the digital shift is where that is not the case anymore. The home buyer has access to all these different relationships and has access to the experience. So that is the digital shift. That is the change that has happened. And the people that have both driven it and benefited the most are, the Zillows, when they took that MLS and they not only put it online, but now they put it, in the palm of your hand. It's a prolific shift in power to the consumer. And then you have the Redfin, who not only put the MLS in the data, at home buyers, but they're going after the real estate space to disrupt that. And by the way, they're also going after the mortgage space now. They own a mortgage company, so they're disrupting that. You've got, literally all the significant real estate players, by the way, because of the digital shift, that are in the mortgage space now. So you just look back, like at the beginning of this year, this is what the competitive landscape looked like for the most part. Big banks. There's an argument to say we could have big banks, community banks, mortgage bankers, mortgage brokers, credit unions. And here we are, in Q4 of 2018, and the competitive landscape has radically shifted. Brokers are scaling, disruptors like Open Door and OfferPad are here, real estate companies owning mortgage companies, league aggregators owning mortgage companies, communities like, House, Mortgage Advisor, Home Advisor are in this space. And yes, Zillow's coming. So competitive landscape has changed. And here's the 3 takeaways. And then I'm going to tee up Jason here in just a second. Takeaway number 1 is the battle is being waged on the phone. By the way, that means we need to change our behavior as mortgage professionals. And the phone has to be more than a phone. The phone can be very distracting on one end, and it can cost you a lot of money, and it can be very productive. The dichotomy of what this phone means and how you use it has a lot to do with your success. And Jason's going to talk about how you can learn to use it to your benefit. Number 2, and this is a new slide. I have not shown this in public yet. I'm getting ready to do a couple keynotes. This is a new slide, but this is the real estate disruption. And I'm not making a prediction here that it's 2025 where blockchain comes in and there's just this direct connection between family wants to sell a home, the machine comes in. What I do know for sure is that right now it's faster than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 3 years ago or even 2 years ago. And there's a whole lot of more players involved. We know that for sure. And then I know for absolute certainty, rate shopping is not going away. It's going to increase. So I know with absolute certainty, the model needs to shift. This is your model today: leads, advice, a lot of transaction, some client for life. I put this in color. This is the model that you need to shift your business to. By the way, that means you need to change. You need to change habits. You need to change skills. Jason's going to talk about how to change those habits and skills so that you expand your advice box for every family. Again, I believe they need a total cost analysis, but I know with absolute fact they have to have tangible advice. And I know with absolute certainty, if you're a referral-based local lender, you need to have a client for life strategy that works. And you need to go beyond this commodity experience to this advice experience. This is where the future is. That a family is getting into mortgage debt, they're getting their options in a way that's modern advice, whether they're meeting you in person, whether they're self-educating. Self-education is important. Meeting you in person, you need to make sure you deliver a different experience. And at Mortgage Coach, we believe that that's this total cost analysis. And that, by the way, that requires change. That requires you learning new skills, not only data input, but asking new questions, having new conversations. it means that you need to be more intentional about your personal branding. And here's my closing two thoughts. And then Jason, we're going to talk about how do we drive this change is you need to go from playing checkers, this very linear game of, hey, I've got good rates. I close loans on times. I keep my promise, playing the price and speed game to playing chess. Still need price and speed, but you also need advice and you need brand. By the way, for 95% of the loan officers in America, that's a radical change. Those are new skills, new habits, and you need to develop them pronto. So Jason, with that said, before I stop sharing slides, any comments you have, anything you want to pull out of this before we get into your model of change?
Well, I saw on one of your slides there, I saw Jay Kroll, and just reminded me how good looking Jay Kroll is, man. That guy. I was with him a couple of weeks ago, and in San Antonio, and he's a big mortgage coach, cheerleader, and it's a good segue into kind of what I'm going into, because what Jay does, and really all the people that use Mortgage Coach, is just right on that slide right there in particular. Go back one, where you had the different options up there. It reminds me of what we do with coaching, where we don't listen to clients, and really good loan officers don't listen to clients and say, okay, this is the program that you have to do. A 30-year fixed is right for you. Basically, what a really good loan officer does, with the use of a technology like Mortgage Coach, is say, okay, let's ask a lot of questions. Let's find out what your hopes, your dreams, your goals are. And based on that, let's give you some options. Let's advise you on what your options are. And then the beauty of what you've done there, especially when it comes to the topic of change, Dave, is the buyer or the borrower ends up choosing the option that's best for them, as opposed to maybe what used to be done, or really what's still done by maybe lesser loan officers, is they just say, okay, this is the best option for you. I think what Mortgage Coach does, and people like Jay and others, is they say, okay, based on what your hopes, your dreams, your financial short-term and long-term goals are, here's options for you. And you as the buyer, you have the ability to pick which option works best for you. And I love that. So it's just a good segue into change, because that's not necessarily how it used to be. And that's not necessarily what maybe lesser loan officers do, but the really excellent loan officers strive to give options and not just say, okay, this is the best thing for you. Did you agree with that?
Absolutely. So let's do this. So, while I interviewed you one time before, this is the first time you've been in our Tuesday show, which is our most, watched live.
Yeah, and I'm humbled.
A lot of people will watch this. Also, I have this ambition with this call, because I've always been such a fan of, Steve Scanlon, Rewire. Now you and I are building a relationship. Just the unique way in which you approach change, in a sustainable way. And then I love the fact that you were a top producer. I know I kind of mentioned in the first minute on Facebook Live, but I was having breakfast with Pat Casey, just a legend in the mortgage industry. And he was commenting on, I heard you're interviewing Jason Abell. Did you know that he used to be this prolific originator? By the way, how much did you do in volume as an originator back in the day?
I was fortunate to be a $100 million producer for many years. And I was also fortunate. I had a lot of people around me, a lot of really good coaching, and I was able to run a $500 million branch. And that was just, those were fun times.
Well, I think that's important, because for anybody who's watching this, whether they're a top producer, whether they're struggling, you're a thought leader now, you're a coach, and on this call, you're gonna drive some change. But realize that Jason is a guy that used to do $100 million in volume. By the way, back in the day, I used to run a team that did 300 units a year and ran a big branch. So we are mortgage professionals for mortgage professionals, but the time is here where you really need to change your process with families, and you need to deliver advice, or 2019 is not going to be good. So, Jason, how do you want to approach it from here in terms of your formula?
No, thank you. I think the first thing I'd like to do, and Dave, this might be a little bit off script, and I'm going to apologize in advance for that. But, with Thanksgiving coming up next week, this idea of being grateful, it is inescapable for me right now. And so I'm gonna call out something, and then I'm gonna ask for anybody that's watching or listening in. I'm gonna ask a question, and that is this. My comment is this: from a grateful standpoint, as you were introducing things and talking about change, I was thinking about technology like Mortgage Coach. I'm just grateful for technology. I mean, the fact that I'm in Maryland right now, you're in Pennsylvania, there's people all around the country that are watching us right now because of the technology of Facebook, Mortgage Coach, and the like. I'm just incredibly grateful for technology. And I guess my question would be, for all of those of you who are watching or listening in, there's a system for you to type things in. I mean, what is it that you're grateful for? And I'd really like you to take a minute and think about that. I'll be talking, Dave will be asking questions, but I'd love to know what your audience is grateful for right now. And
okay, guys, so time out. So two things. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, whether you're live or whether you're watching the recording right now, put it on pause. Let us know. What are you grateful for? And I want to kind of add on to that.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I'm feeling full. I'm feeling grateful. I'm not feeling in victim mode. I'm not feeling in, pissed off mode. Just be candid. On a scale of 1 to 10, put a number in there. 10 being I'm super grateful. And 2, what are you grateful for? So also, if you're in Zoom, you can put this in comments. But if you are watching the recording, I would love for you to just stop and write that down right now. So it is. Back to you, Jason.
No, and I'm glad you did that. There's actually a couple reasons I did that. One is it's just a thing that I can't get away from right now. Every morning when I'm waking up, I'm in my journal, I'm writing what I'm grateful for. At Rewire, often in the meetings the last couple of days, we've been starting, instead of diving right into the business, we're going, hey, what are you grateful for right now? We're just kind of asking that question. One, because it's inescapable. 2, there's actually some neuroscience that says if we focus on things that we're grateful for, that puts us more in a toward state, meaning a state that's positive, that is, it releases neurochemicals in our brains where we can actually start thinking about positive things, reward types of things, opportunities, because as we know, in today's day and age, there's a lot of talk about what's happening in the mortgage industry, what's happening in the political environment, what's happening in society in general, and that's just not great news. So if we can just take a minute, and I love what you said, Dave, take a minute, stop, push pause if you have to, even if it's for 30 seconds, and just let's think about what exactly it is that we are grateful for. And so again, 1, I just can't escape it. 2, there's actually some science around the fact that if we can do that, believe it or not, 1 or 2 or 3 stops down the line, and I love your chess analogy, that will actually make you a better loan officer. So you don't want to do it just because you'll do more loans. But if you did start off your day with writing a few things about what you're grateful for, you'll actually end up doing more loans as a result of it. And again, that's just not me saying that. That's the science behind it. And there's studies that also show that. I see your time out.
Time out. So 1, for everybody that's, Facebook Live is going off. There's a lot of grateful people writing a lot of great notes. So thank you to everyone who's doing that. I'm not going to read them all out, but, Amy, Janice, Jody, Bill, Patrick, Amy. Anyways, guys, good job. You're getting after it. By the way, you're going to get the most value. I am going to put a link down below to an interview I did with Josh Metal, which is called Gratefulness for Greatness. And I mean, it is in one of the most viewed and most highly rated calls I've done this year. And it was like a 15-minute interview. But, one of the things that makes Josh and his team so great is they prospect every day, as a team. And he goes through this rhythm of how they prepare for that hour a day. and they have this little gratefulness huddle that they do. So I just had to call that out. I'm going to put a link down below. Super good to watch it. And I know where this call's going, but you're so right, Jason. I mean, that's, if you're not high on the gratefulness chart, you're just not going to change. You're not going to get after it the way you could and should.
Well, that's exactly what we find. Again, not only the science shows that, but as we've observed our own clients that partake in those types of activities, they just tend to have better communication. They have better engagement with their referral partners and their borrowers, and they enjoy better relationships. And we're going to talk a lot about relationships on this call. But I just, when you talk about Josh Metal and some of his habits, I think about, prospecting every day. And there's another term that can't escape me. And we use this within Rewire as well, is just getting your reps in. Sometimes you prospect and nothing happens, but sometimes you prospect and things happen. It's almost like working out. Like if I go to the gym today for 90 minutes, my muscles are not going to grow by 3 inches and I'm not going to lose a bunch of weight. But if I go to the gym today and tomorrow and the next day, and I've got some sort of consistency that I'm working out, 90 days from now, I'm going to look back in the rearview mirror and I'm going to go, oh, I actually have some bigger muscles now. And maybe I lost weight, or maybe I'm seeing some results. And that idea of Josh getting his reps in, I don't know, Josh, if you're watching right now, but I would almost guarantee that on a day-to-day basis, he may not see improvement, but on an aggregate basis of getting your reps in, that's the type of thing where you go, okay, now there's aggregate improvement there. In fact, it also reminds me of a story of a particular client within the last 90 days. So can I tell you a quick story?
It's your show, man. The rest of the show is yours.
Oh, man.
You only got about 37 minutes left. So remember, man.
All right. I'll take you. I'll just tell this story about a high performing loan officer that's a client right now in the Midwest. And this isn't like yesterday or back in the day. This is the last 90 days of 2018. And this story, I just love this story. So successful loan officer goes and makes his sales calls, has his loan process down A to Z. He manufactures loans. He treats his business like a practice. But one of the things, and you asked me early on today, Dave, how many things do people want to change? One of the things that he came up with is he said, Jason, I got to tell you a little secret. I don't use my CRM. And this is a high producing loan officer. He's like, I know I'm supposed to, but I just don't. And so we spoke a little bit and we went through some Q&A, and I just asked him some questions. I was like, okay, why is that? And he said, well, I'm too busy for it. And to be quite frank with you, the technology scares me a little bit. It seems confusing. I'm not really sure what's going on. I don't even know where to start. He's almost like, I don't want to say choking up, but whatever is right before choking up, that he's like, I'm so pissed. Like, I know I should be doing it, and I'm just not. And so we went through the confusion and the anger and the reasons why he wasn't. And so through a little bit of Q&A, after we figured out what his belief system was behind that, and some of the things that he was telling himself, what story he was telling himself of why he wasn't using his CRM, we were able to break down a few different actions that he could take. So he's a little scared of the technology. He thought he was too busy. It was really confusing and overwhelming. But what he ended up agreeing to is he's like, I can call my people. I'll just call the people in the database. Great. That's a great place to start. How many people are you going to call? I'll call 20 people a week. I said, okay, no, let's cut that in half. What if you just called 10 people a week? And what we ended up landing on is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, he was going to call 3 people each day. So 3 people a day, 3 times a week. And for you mortgage bankers, 9 calls that he was making for the week. Just very, very tiny thing. Wasn't even touching technology yet. He was just making 3 calls a day, 3 times a week, 9 phone calls a day. And the only thing that he committed to, and he came up with this, not me. I just asking him questions. He said, I'll make 9 calls a week. 2 weeks later, we come in to the call, and part of my job as a coach is to say, hey, how'd that go? How did it end up going? And he's like, it was great. I actually called 9 people the first week, 9 people the second week, 18 people. And he's like, you know what, Jason? They actually like me. They want to talk to me. Yeah, he left some voicemails, but he ended up talking to people. And all we said was like, and he didn't get any loans from it. And he was a little bit disappointed in that. But he's like, I actually had a good time with it. And it took me an hour and a half for the entire week, maybe a half an hour at a time. And I said, okay, let's do it another 2 weeks. He's like, okay, boom. Well, I can do that. Again, we haven't even touched technology yet. We're not doing any email sets. We're not writing notes. We're not doing annual mortgage reviews. He's just calling people and going, hey, how's it going? I haven't talked to you in a while, blah, 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 that type of thing. 2 weeks later, again, he comes into the call. He's like, you're not going to believe this. And I can hear him smiling on the other end of the phone. You know that deal where you can just tell what somebody looks like? And I'm like, tell me. He's like, I actually got 2 refinance deals out of making these calls. And I'm like, dude, what do you mean 2 refinance deals? Rates are going up, not down. He's like, I know, but here's the deal. One person needed to do a cash out refinance to consolidate some debt. Another person had to take care of some tuition for a college age child that they were having. And he's like, I got 2 refinances out of it. He's like, I want to do 20 calls next week. And just this idea of what you were talking about, Josh Metal, and getting your reps in, we decided let's perfect getting the 3 calls 3 times a week and just continue to do it, get your reps in. So he's been doing that now for 90 days. And here's the results. Those 2 refinance, the 2 refinance deals he ended up getting turned into another 2 purchase transactions that he got just from calling 9 people a week. And the last time I spoke to him, he said he got 2 listings out of the deal. And I was like, what do you mean listings? You're not a realtor. He's like, I know. And he's telling me, I got listings. I was able to turn those listings over to realtors. And everybody that's on the webinar right now, you know what gold that is. And so when we start to talk about change, Dave, and we talk about the chess game that you're talking about, we just like to keep things simple. And what we do is when we coach people, we just ask them questions and we deal with certain things. And again, he hasn't even gotten to the technology piece of it yet. I'm giddy because when he does get everybody into the CRM that his company has, and he starts putting more systems around the phone calls and the emails and the snail mails, things like that, I'm just excited to see what type of business that can lead to. And so, again, I appreciate you allowing me to tell that story, but if I can share my screen with you, I think you said we could do that. I want to show you. Yeah, I can do that.
One thing is, yeah, you can share it. I'll tell you when I can see it.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to make sure everybody noticed with that is just about every coach, every best practice I know says, hey, you want to hit, big numbers, optimize success. You need to call more than 3 a day, 3 times a week. They would tell you it's 10 a day, 5 days a week. And one of the things I love about what you did is you brought the goal down to something that was, without question achievable. 3 calls, 3 times. And guys, think about that. If you're on this call and you are kind of feeling burned out and you're not hitting your numbers, think about lowering your numbers by bring them down to something that there's just no reason you can't hit it, because there's just an adrenaline that you get from achieving your numbers. So I just want to make sure everybody connected the dots on, 3 a day, 3 times a week, because I know just about every coach, and even me, I'm good on the phone. Oh, you need to be talking to 30 people a week, 5 quality conversations a day. You're not doing 5 quality conversations a day. You're not meeting 1 realtor a day, so if you're not, break it down. Anyways, back to you.
Well, Dave, I actually, before I go on to my slide deck, I want to say 2 things about exactly what you're saying. One, because there's genius in what you said. I don't know if you fully realize that, but I'm going to pick apart what you said a little bit. One thing is the idea, and you didn't use these words, but I will, the idea of tiny habits. So we'll have clients come to us and say, hey man, I want to run a marathon. Okay. Have you ever run a race before? No, but I want to run a marathon. So the first thing that we'll do is say, okay, go get a pair of shoes. And for the first week, just put your running shoes on. I don't even want you to go out and run. Just put your running shoes on and lace them up. And then the next week, maybe we go out and we take a walk around the block. And maybe we do that for a week or two. And then the next week, if you want to jog a little bit when you're walking around the block, maybe do that. But it's this idea of tiny, tiny habits that end up aggregately leading to massive, massive results. So that's just the first thing. And we've got a lot of tools on tiny habits on our website. You can go there. I'll put that website up later. But the other genius thing that you said is I didn't tell this client what to do. He came up with it himself. I heard there was a video that I was watching the other day of some coaching, and the whole thing was like, okay, here's 3 simple steps that superstar producers do, and you will be a success no matter what. And I got to tell you, in this day and age, I'm not so sure that that works anymore, because if I tell you, Dave, that you have to do something with Mortgage Coach, Dave, this is the thing that you have to do tomorrow. I don't know. We've just found that people don't like to be told what to do. We have a belief with the Rewire coaching of the Rewire method of coaching is that we believe that people already have it inside of them of to what to do. All we do is we ask questions and we lead people. We facilitate the change, because Dave, I'm a big believer is I can go on the internet right now and I can Google how to be a successful loan officer. And there's all kinds of things that are already there that will tell me how to be a successful loan officer. It's not the information that will lead to the change. It's the action that will lead to the change. If it was just the information, we'd all be billionaires with rock hard abs, right? It's not the information. And so what we do is we facilitate people's own journey, their own thinking. And then because this particular client ended up coming up with, okay, I'm going to start here, and we just facilitated it, well, then he got these amazing results. But if I came in and I said, okay, you need to make 10 sales calls a day and you have to put everything in your CRM or whatever, he'd probably end up either feeling guilty because he wasn't able to do it, or more overwhelmed than he did when I first spoke with him about it. And so anyways, I got a lot I want to get to today, but you had some genius things there, so I wanted to point that out to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing it out. And again, you still got 27 more minutes.
All right, cool. 27 minutes. So here's what, with that story of the 3 calls 3 times a week, here's what happened. And I know we ran through this before, but I just want to show you very quickly again for maybe people that missed this, the iceberg model for mortgage results. This is what typically happens with either coaching or people that want to improve or get through change, is they really just focus in on the results, the very, very tip of the iceberg up here. This is how many loans did you close? How many units did you fund? How many applications did you take? I would submit to you that that's just the very, very tip of the iceberg. Below that, still above the waterline, but what people see are the actions that lead to those results. So with this story that I told you, sure, I could have said, man, if you make 5 calls a day, no matter what, or I've heard, different schools of thought, man, you better call, 10 realtors every Monday morning or something like that. Those actions, yeah, they'll lead to the results, but there's just something deeper than that, because I want to see actions from a client or a loan officer. There's a particular line that happens. And Dave, you know about this line, I bet, when you see adoption rates with Mortgage Coach users, where somebody, is learning Mortgage Coach and they're doing the actions, they get into it every day, or they try it out, 3 times a week, or there's some sort of actions along the way that lead to the results that people are looking for, more apps, more closed loans. I would submit to you that there's a line that somebody crosses where they have to think about going into Mortgage Coach. They think about what they're doing. They purposefully do it. They learn what buttons to push, but there's a certain line where they just become the loan officer that uses technology like Mortgage Coach. We're looking for people to cross that line. If we can get people over that line, then we're helping to build people that are the type of people that end up just taking the actions that lead to the results that they're looking for, as opposed to, you better take the action, you better take the action. Does that make sense so far when I say that?
Absolutely. I mean, we always start in our training with, it starts with why. We've got to, if we want them to do something differently, we need to get them to think differently. And so, we always kind of, really work on building the why and changing the way they think.
Well, you're a perfect segue, because below the waterline, the real big part of the iceberg is our thoughts and our beliefs. What the heck is going on in our head? And very often the neural pathways and the stories that we're telling ourselves is things like this particular loan officer that I was telling you about. He was overwhelmed by the technology. He didn't think he had enough time. It was confusing. And the story that he told himself is that big section below the waterline of like, man, I know I should use the CRM, but I feel guilty for not using it. I'm actually pretty confused about it. And now I'm pissed off at myself because I'm supposedly a good loan officer, but the dirty little secret is I don't even use my CRM. These were these thoughts and beliefs that were going on inside of his head. And then even below that is the emotions and the senses. Some people call it EQ, or emotional intelligence. And so at Rewire, we just ask a lot of questions about what the narrative is, what the story is, what people are telling themselves. And if we can ask a lot of questions and have people build some sense around that, then we can very quickly get above the waterline where they've committed themselves to taking the action to become the type of loan officer that they want to become. And what's really fun for me, which makes me kind of giddy, is not only does it work in business, Dave, but it works in life. So we've got clients that are producing more, but they're also enjoying better relationships at home. They're engaging their children different. They're engaging their friends different, their spouses different. And so this has been fun. So this model is something that in the last several months I've been very, very hot on. And I've seen our clients that understand this and take it and use it. They're just becoming the people that do the actions that lead to the results that they're ultimately looking for. So that's just been kind of fun. Before I move on though, I don't know, Dave, how does this strike you? Any questions, anything that I can answer for you?
Well, I mean, I love this for so many reasons. And this was an epiphany for me, that I think I didn't get the iceberg. I got it from you for the first time. But this, at Mortgage Coach, we've always focused on, hey, starts with why. And by the way, I'm very intentional when I interview top producers. I go through this process of think, feel, do. Like every time I interview someone, I'm going, what do I want the audience to think? Right. What I want the audience to feel at an emotional level. And then, what do I want them to do? And if I'm standing in front of a stage where I'm selling a Mortgage Coach, it's sign up for Mortgage Coach. If I'm, right. Edu selling, it's, I drive them into our communities. But it's always this think, feel, do. But the thing I learned from you, and I hope what you guys are all getting from this, is at the base of it, if people don't feel emotionally good, you can't get them to change how they think, and by the way, guys, listen to the interview that Jason and I did down below. We get into strategies like, meditation, exercise, tactics and strategies to improve your emotional state so that you can change the way you think. And by the way, I love the way you started this off with gratefulness. I don't think we covered that the last interview, but yeah. if you're not coming from your day with a heart of gratefulness, it's like you're going to be in lizard mode. You're not going to be able to even get down and do the work if you're not in that grateful state. So yeah. I don't want to ask questions because I want to get through your content. And then I do actually have one question, but I'll close with it.
Yeah, we're just so convinced that the mindset is what equals success that people are looking for, not the action. If the mindset happens, then you become the person that just naturally takes the actions that get the results that you're looking for. And it's been fun because the last, I think I said this to you last time, in the last 90 days with this school of thought, the whole deal about changing the way people think in order to change the way that they act and then achieve the results that they're looking for, we've been able to double our coaching clientele literally in the last 90 days because of that. And it looks like we'll double again within the next, I don't know, 90 days, 60 days, or 90 or 6 months or something like that, because this idea is catching on that people, once they get their mind right, then they become the people that take the actions to get the result. That's just been really fun. So the only other thing that I guess there's a couple of other things that I go to. And one is, as we talk about change, I think there's something, remember Jim Collins in that book, Good to Great? There's something that strikes me. And Steve and I were talking about this earlier, Steve Scanlon, the founder of Rewire. We're talking about Jim Collins has something that he calls the tyranny of the or, the word or, where good companies think, well, it's got to be this way or that way. And Jim suggests that there's something called the genius of the and, the word and. So as opposed to either or, it's and. And I would say this, it's not a change or die mentality. I think that yes, loan officers need to embrace change. There is change that's happening. And you very adeptly pointed that out in the beginning of this webinar. Things are changing. Technologies are changing. The way people get loans is changing. I think we have a responsibility to embrace change, but I think we also have a responsibility to get back to basics. There are some things that don't change, and that's what I'd like to go into next. And this is really fun for me because it reminds me that even though there's things that are changing, we're all still human beings, and there's certain things that we need as human beings. So here's the three things that I'd like to talk about as far as back to basics. And this is not like you must do this and you have to do this or you'll die. These are three things that I've observed in my own mortgage practice when I was a mortgage banker, but I also see with our clients now. And it's embracing change and saying, okay, there are some things that aren't going to change. Let's embrace those things too. So the top three back to basics that we have, first of all, relationships. I don't care if we get the blockchain. I don't care how much technology advances. I don't care if Amazon gets into the industry. We're still human beings that thrive and live on relationships. And so, you talked about Josh Metal and some of the other people that you interviewed and do business with. Guess what? It's all about relationships. That prospecting that he was talking about, it's about building relationships with people. So it doesn't matter to me how you do it, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Maybe it's phone calls. Maybe it's showing up at open houses. Maybe it's doing brokers opens. Maybe it's doing every realtor event that you can physically be at. Maybe it is 3 calls 3 times a day. 3 times a week. But somehow, some form with your particular personality type, with the fact that you're an introvert or an extrovert and what your particular gifting zone is, somehow, some way, develop relationships with people. Does that make sense so far, Dave, when I say that?
Makes perfect sense. And by the way, guys, we have a great conversation going on Facebook Live. I'm putting a few takeaways and quotes.
Oh, good.
Hope you guys are doing the same. Share your notes down below. Keep it rocking.
So relationships, those that enjoy the best in most relationships are those that will succeed in the mortgage industry. The second back to basics that I have is technology. Learn the stuff. When I started, and I'm going to date myself a little bit, but my HP 12C, I lit that thing up, man, and I knew how to use that. That was the technology of the day. And then when we were able to put good faith estimates on our computer and not handwrite them, and we actually could fax things, that was the technology of the day. Today, we've got amazing technology like Mortgage Coach. We've got amazing pricing technologies these days, marketing, prospecting technologies. And there'll be technologies tomorrow that we're not even thinking of today. And it doesn't matter to me which CRM you use, but pick a CRM. It doesn't matter to me what form of prospecting you use, LinkedIn, Facebook, social surveys, doing amazing things these days, but pick one or two and stick with it. So technology, it's not going to go away. Technology is amazing and does amazing things. So one, relationships, see the people. Two, technologies, learn the stuff. And the third one is sharpen. Find a mentor, hire a coach. And I've had people accuse me, oh, you're just saying that because you run a coaching company, Jason. You want people to, don't hire us. It doesn't matter to me. Find somebody that you can sharpen with, because the more that you sharpen the axe, the better that you'll be when you're on the field of play. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's a mentor, aunt, uncle, a friend, somebody that has been in the industry maybe before and has your best interest in mind. Find somebody that you can be in community with that will help to sharpen you. Yeah, of course, I'm partial to coaching. We have an unbiased third party that's paying attention and has your best interest in mind. Yes, I think Rewire has a unique model of coaching, but even if it's not us, find somebody that you're being sharpened by. Those three things, Dave, I think keep it simple. One of our values at Rewire is simplicity. And so we just try to keep things simple. And again, I don't care how or what your form of relationships are, but if you're in relationship with people and you have good, solid relationships, you'll win the mortgage game. If you know something about technology, not all the technologies out there, but something about a few of them, and you learn the stuff, I think you'll win the mortgage game. If you spend as much time sharpening with either a mentor or a coach, I also, as you are on the field of play, I think you'll win the mortgage game. So again, I know that's pretty simplistic, but I strongly believe that these three things, when you talk about the things that are changing in the mortgage industry, I'm just a strong believer that these three things, and your take on these three things, not my take on these three things, but your individual take on these three things will lead to mortgage success. Not only finishing 2018 strong, which I really hope everybody does, but then the on-ramp onto 2019, oh man, it can just be really fun. A lot of fun for people.
So I know you got a few more slides. I want to insert something right here because
I'm good.
This came up in a thread in our Facebook group. A new loan officer was coming into space. They were asking about a specific coach, who I think is great. And I do believe in, paying money and having a coach. There's an intentionality that happens, when you invest money in a coaching relationship. There's just, you got to be ready. You've got to, resign yourself, be ready to be coached. But I also find in every success story, whether it's just, a success story of a successful producer or someone who made change with, call it mortgage coach, it takes a village. It takes, I hear stories, I watched that video with Jeremy Forcier and it turned on the light bulb and, and blank happened. And by the way, there's a top producer, a mortgage coach in my company who spent 20 minutes with me or 10 minutes with me or 5 minutes with me and helped me do this. Yeah. It takes a village, and so the only thing I would do there in that number three, it's, like hiring a coach, investing money and time for a relationship that's going to drive initiatives is huge. But every success story I've ever interviewed, there are mentors, coaches for everything. I interviewed Bob Bodine a couple weeks ago, and he talks about the power of who, and you got to have 12, your board of directors. So anybody watching this, I would recommend that you take a few minutes and write down who are the coaches and mentors in your life right now, that have got you to where you're at, and where do you want to go, between now and 2020, because, anybody who's seen my presentation, the machine is coming, and you do need to change and, get really intentional about who your accountability partners are, who is your coach, and who are the mentors you need to become the person you need to become. So anyways, Jason, I know you got a few more slides.
Yeah, I'm actually good. I'm actually good with the slides. Those are really the main things that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, was just this idea of, it's not a change is coming, so we better be ready. I think that's almost like a threat state type of thing. And I think starting off with gratefulness and being in a towards state, a positive state, I guess that's something that I don't know that I can talk enough about. And I do think, if we go back to this one slide that I had here of, let's see if I can pull it up for you again.
While you're pulling that up, I just want to review everybody. We went through, we kicked it off with this, what I called gratefulness for greatness. Jason talking about that is a tactic for change. Tiny habits, we didn't have that on the grid, but Jason pointed that out. And, think about, if you're not hitting your goals, break them down. We talked about changing your thoughts and beliefs. If you want to change your actions, trust me, the thoughts and beliefs you have got you where you're at. So whatever those results are, whatever those actions you're doing, if you're not prospecting enough to make money, it's because of your thoughts and beliefs, period. So you got to change them. And in order to change those, you got to change your emotional senses and your state. We don't have enough time to get into it, but I mean, meditation, exercise, great practice, gratefulness, So anyways, I just wanted to give a review. You had something you wanted to point out here?
No, just going back to what you were saying. I like your recap. I'm just actually excited for the technologies that are out there, like Mortgage Coach. I'm excited for what the future holds. I know that the market that we're in right now is a separator type of a market. And I would say that, the people that are doing these things, they're investing in themselves, in relationships, they're investing in technology, they're investing in themselves in finding a mentor, finding a coach. I think this is the market where it's a separator market. And I'm excited for those, like even the people that are watching this right now, they're investing in themselves just by watching, you and I right now. Not to say that we're the end all be all, but just the fact that the type of person that's investing in themselves, the time and the money, the energy, I'm excited for those loan officers, because I know that, the markets that are more tougher than others, which is what we're in right now, just call it out for what it is. It is a separator market. And I think that those that, invest in themselves in the way that we've talked about, they'll be the ones that end up winning the market, the mortgage game. And I'm excited for those people. I really am. I think it's going to be for those people, I think it's going to be a fun 2019, 2020 and beyond. And giddy up.
Cool. So I want to read a comment, and then I want to ask you a question. So Mike Thomas really liked this comment you put in, bro. So good job, buddy. This webinar is very refreshing. Sometimes I listen to these calls and I get all stressed out about all the things I'm not doing or want to do. I feel you. Now remember, my job is to bring the knowledge. Your job is to prioritize and execute. So
that's right.
I'm going to keep bringing it. I'm going to keep bringing the fire hose. But by the way, Mike, I love that you were this transparent and you shoved it. But this is helping me realize that I don't need to do everything, which is what my wife has been telling me for months. So you got to love wives that know it all. And they're usually they do. They know they're right. And the tiny steps are huge. Anyone else feeling the same? So by the way, nice job on the transparency, brother. Anybody that's listening to this, give Mike a like and play off of that, because I do think the tiny habits was a big one. So Jason, one question I have, if anybody's listening and they want to engage with Rewire, give us, email you, call you, what do they do?
Yeah, right there is all of our specs. I mean, our website, you can there's a bunch of free tools that are on there. We have tools around finding your why. We have tools on business planning for 2019 and beyond. All that's free on our website. My email's right there. We're on the Twitters and the Facebooks and all that, but that's me. And that comment that you just read, Dave, I shake my head because we're hearing more and more and more of that. When we bring, the Rewire method of coaching to the table, people are like, whoa, you mean you're not going to give me 3 easy steps? You're not going to tell me what to do? And we're like, no, you've already got it in you what to do. Now, we're going to be in your corner. It's kind of like a boxing ring. Like, we're literally in people's corner, but it's the person themselves that are in the ring. It's not me in the ring. They are. And then they come back to the corner after the 3-minute, round, and we freshen up and we ask more questions and we go under the water where the iceberg is and talk about thoughts and that type of thing. And then and freshen them up and put them out in the ring. And that's just been really fun. So I appreciate that comment. And we've just been getting a deluge of those types of comments, which has been fun for us. We're excited we're just excited about doing what we're doing. We're grateful for that. And I loved hearing that comment. I can't wait to get on Facebook and see the different comments because I love that guy. Whoever that is, love you, man. Well done.
All right. So let's close out with some thoughts.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull up our Facebook group. Remember, guys, read this article that I kicked it off with. Are you playing mortgage checkers or mortgage chess? If you got value from it, give it a like, share it with your crew. If you're a manager, have a meeting around it. Marcy, if you're listening to this, one idea I had after, having this call with Jason is literally, I don't want to say I'm going to do this forever, but between now and end of year, we're going to come to every Tuesday's call and we're going to ask you, what are you grateful for? I want to turn on the intentionality. Marcy, if you could hold me accountable to that. And by the way, I would love to keep this thread going. If you're watching this in YouTube, let us know in comments below, what are you grateful for? If you're watching this in the Facebook Live, let us know what you're grateful for. And everybody that's a regular that comes to these Tuesdays calls, I am going to kick it off with that. So you can either write it up beforehand and just cut and paste it. But I'm at least going to drive that intentionality through the end of the year because that was my big takeaway is just every time I interview you or Steve, it just reminds me that change happens beneath your thoughts and beliefs. And there's so much more to it. So anyways, I really appreciate this, my man. Any last words of wisdom as we've got 2 minutes left to wrap this thing up? Any last words, any last wisdom, any one thing you want people to do in Rewire land?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, the one thing I would just say, if there was one thing, just invest in yourself. And then the other thing, and I do get accused of being a little, little touchy-feely, mushy sometimes, but I really believe, and I really hope that everybody has an amazing Thanksgiving next week. It's already the week before Thanksgiving, which is crazy, but this idea of gratefulness and talking about you, I'm grateful that we had this time together, and investing in yourself, you always get a great ROI.
Right on, man. Well, hey, this has been a fantastic call. If you've got value from it, give us a like as you watch the recording, share it with your mortgage friends. And Jason, I know we'll have you in here a lot more. I really appreciate you, brother. I am grateful for you.
Likewise, Dave. Take it easy, man.
You too, buddy. Take care. Yeah.